Folks, it's Dan. You're about to listen to an episode of the Danswers podcast, but I just had some quick announcements first. First off, I am on tour, and I'm going to tell you some cities I'm going to. Nashville, Tennessee, 10/25 through 26. 10 is October. I know that because I passed high school. Oklahoma City is October 27th. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is November 1st and 2nd. Royal Oak, Michigan is November 3rd. Now, here's a little thing about Royal Oak, Michigan. They told me, and I think, maybe they're jumping the gun a little bit on this, but it's putting a fire under my ass. They told me that I will not be performing at Royal Oak, Michigan if I don't sell more tickets. And this is a good test because I don't know if I'm going to sell enough tickets, but the urgency is there. Going to lose a little bit of money if we don't sell more tickets here. So please, you'll be refunded. I'll make sure you're refunded if they cancel the show and you buy tickets anyway. But please, 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 check out the tickets to Royal Oak, Michigan. We're going to New Westminster, British Columbia. We're going to Canada, baby. Canada. They call it the Great White North. I take homage to that. I think there's a lot of colors up there. Okay. Portland, Oregon, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Austin, Texas. Tickets to all of these dates are on my link tree. They're in the description of this video. Please check them out. Also, please check out the Patreon. I put up a new episode every week where you get to ask direct questions to me, okay? You ever have a direct question to me, whether it be should I break up with this person or how them pits smell, you can ask me on the Patreon. $5 a month, extra episode every week. Please check it out. All right, let's do the episode. Folks, hello and welcome to the Danswers podcast. I'm your host, Dan Donohue. You may notice we are remote once again. That's right, we're in Sunnyvale, California. I just finished playing a club called Rooster T. Feathers, baby. That's a name right there. That's an illustrious name. I have friends who are playing places like the Wilbur Theater, and I am playing Rooster T. Feathers Comedy Club in Sunnyvale, California. Now I'm sitting on a wicker chair that it seems to be almost breaking, which is concerning to me because I have been on the road, and the way I've been eating, I think wicker might not be an option soon. Wicker might not be a thing for me pretty soon the way I have been eating on the road because I have been eating like a dang pig. Yeah, kind of have to. You kind of have to. Not because there's not a lot of options, especially in Sunnyvale. There's a ton of options. You just need to feel something sometimes. You know what I mean? And I wish I could tell you, man, I've been doing a lot of exciting things on the road. You look at like other comedians, travel vlogs and stuff. It's Bert Kreischer, and when he's not doing stand-up, he's like parachuting or riding a bull or something. Not me. I'm in my hotel room with 3 different screens on, watching 3 different sports, and I'm praying for a little bit of dopamine to hit my body. Please. Oh, please, just a little bit of dopamine. Just a smidge. I haven't felt it in a while. Just a little, just remind me what it is to feel. Sorry, I didn't mean for this podcast to start on such a desperate note. But the shows have been fun. Next weekend, I am going to Nashville. I might pull up some bad reviews for Nashville as the podcast progresses. But the first thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say this for the people watching on video. Yes, I am wearing a tank top. Okay, I'm done pretending. I used to, and I do on stage. I usually try to cover my arms on stage. We're done with that. Okay? If no one's going to watch my videos, I'm going to be comfortable. Okay? I might start going tank top on stage. I might start being Dane Cook early 2000s. Okay? He hasn't broken out the tank top in a while. I might start wearing a tank top on stage. Why not? Screw it. Okay? I want to be comfortable. I'm sweating up there to cover my arms. Why? Why? So some guy who's on a date doesn't hate me right off the bat? Guess what? He hates me immediately anyway. Why am I doing anything for that guy? By the way, I don't really think I got the look right now to make any guy feel insecure unless your girlfriend is like really into Freddie Mercury. Unless your girlfriend's so hot for Freddie Mercury for some reason, I think you're fine. I think your girl's safe. Um I had kind of a funny experience recently. I had a funny thing happen to me. My buddy 2 days ago told me someone tried scamming him by pretending to be someone who was interested in booking him for a private gig. This happens with comedians. It's happened for me before. I've actually done some really fun private gigs before. And but they reached out to my buddy and they said all these weird things. Then they were like, "So give us your bank information, basically, so we can pay you." And it's all BS, right? And then the same scammers hit me up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna have some fun with these people." So so my plan was to request like a bunch of ridiculous things for the green room, and they messaged me and they go, "I hope this message finds you well. I'm ready to inquire about your availability and rates for a corporate event we are hosting." I ask about the event, and so I know it's the scammer, and they give the same information as they gave my friend. And I said, "So it would be $3,000 for 30 minutes. I require spring water in the green room on top of a couple other things." My plan was to say some silly things that I need for the green room. But they come back, 1,500 is within our budget range. We are prepared to offer a competitive rate for your services. They wouldn't even give me $3,000 of fake money. That's how bad things are in my career right now. I can't even get 3,000 fake dollars for a private corporate event. And by the way, the messages keep going, and I request a petting zoo for my green room, and they say that they can't do it. But just the fact that they weren't even willing to lie to me and say they would give me $3,000 as a scam. I verified that this was a scam, by the way. That I double checked because I was like, there's no way that a scammer had the audacity to go, "Well, all right, let's not be crazy, Dan." All right, Dan, I know we're trying to steal money from you, but also don't get too big for your britches now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just wanted to have a little bit of fun, and now I'm sad. Now I'm sad again, okay? Now I'm sad. I was trying to have a little bit of fun at the expense of some scammers, some people who were trying to steal money from me. And even then. And then I had my credit card stolen. My information for my credit card stolen. And all they did was they sent some money in from MGM, and then they sent it out like they laundered the money through an MGM Grand account. And the whole time I was like, damn, did I do that? That's how irresponsible I've been with my money lately. I called Bank of America and I was like, did I put a parlay in? They were like, no, your card was stolen. I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, man. Now I have to figure out which stupid costs are mine and which ones are the scammers, because there's no way to differentiate. It's really tough. It's nice being up here in like the San Francisco type area. The people here are very nice. I've found that they're interestingly kind of tight about the sex stuff in my material, right? I talk about sex in my stand up, not very graphically. Like the sex stuff I do is very like tame. But they tightened up, and I do wonder if Palo Alto area is just so tech involved that they've just completely like lost their connection to sex in any way. That was kind of the vibe out. You know what like Palo Alto and San Francisco and stuff is now? It's a bunch of people who are polyamorous but also don't have sex. I know that sounds weird, but that's the vibe I get. The vibe I get is it's a bunch of people who are like, yeah, I'm poly, I can see as many people as I want, and my partner can see as many people as they want, and we're totally cool as long as we communicate with that with each other. And then you go, oh, well, how many partners are you seeing? And they're like, oh, none. I'm focused on work right now. It's like, oh, that's that's interesting. Okay. It's a bunch of like hypothetically slutty people. Do you know what I mean? I think this is a big thing right now. Like, I think that shows like Euphoria are super popular. And I think that's because it depicts high school in this really elevated, like hyper drug-induced, hypersexual way, which personally, by the way, I've never watched the show. I don't need to see high schoolers in that light, to be honest with you. I know that there are obviously actors who are of age, but the fact that Drake had a big part in that show also a little bit, what are we doing? But I think that people were interested in that show because I think it's so inaccurate now. I really do. I think that people are just so much less sexualized. And it's so funny because I feel like media and stuff has gotten so hypersexualized. But in a way, I think that we're just kind of letting all of our sexual energy out in that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's odd, but I do feel like Puritans kind of got what they wanted because, like, young people are like way less likely to get into relationships nowadays, and it's very strange. And I feel like this is the starting place for that. Like Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, this kind of area. It's like this is the genesis of the weird sterilized society that we live in now. It's interesting to walk around and to talk to people and stuff like that. And by the way, the audiences were very nice. The crowds were very nice. Even a couple of drunk, rowdy people, which, boy, do I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, don't get hammered at my show. Don't yell at me. I don't like that. But when it does happen from time to time, I do go, okay, we can kind of relax. It just takes one really drunk idiot to make everybody else kind of be like, okay, cool. It's usually some guy's wife. Some guy comes in, and they've been married for so long that he just has completely given up on checking her, like, drinking in any sort of way. And they get there together. It's someone's wife or it's someone's husband. That's always so fascinating, isn't it? When you see a couple, and one of them is acting like a moron, and the other one is just stomaching it. That happens at comedy shows all the time. Either a woman will start yelling at the stage and the guy just has a dead blank stare, or a guy will start yelling some shit and the woman next to him just like completely goes into a fugue state. It shows what you learn to put up with, right? Like this woman, she was not being rude at all. She was just kind of, talking during the show a little bit, and that's whatever. That's part of the territory. I don't like when it happens. But also, if you can't handle that, don't do stand-up comedy, right? That's my personal opinion. I think that it's a really hard job to do if you can't take like any distraction or any member of the crowd going a little bit crazy. But she started talking during my set, and it was good to see. It was good to see a little bit of life from these people up here in Palo Alto and Silicon Valley. Because there was a big division. There were the people who were like there and alive, and they were young, and they were drinking, and they had fun. They came up to me after the show. They were like, good set. And then there were these like middle-aged tech people, where as soon as I mentioned anything, even like vaguely challenging, you could just see them be like, no, thank you. And God bless them. I hope they find a comic that they like. But I've had a big problem with like the way people talk about San Francisco for a long time. It's not that it's inaccurate. Like, I think San Francisco has a ton of problems, obviously. But I propose that there's something wrong with San Francisco that people don't really talk about a lot, which is that San Francisco got so expensive, cool people can't live there anymore. Why does no one talk about that? Why does no one talk? Like, it's all about, like, oh, crime is up, which I'm sure it is, and, like, people are unhoused at an insane rate, which I'm sure they are, because it costs so much to live there. But you have this other big problem with San Francisco, which was the cool thing about San Francisco was if you were a musician or an artist or someone who's just interested in those things, you could live there without having rich parents. And now you have these dipshits who have super rich parents who are not fun or interesting, who work some stupid stuffy job, and they want to go out at night and see entertainment, but the entertainment isn't really there anymore because everybody who could afford to live there who is a struggling artist moved so far. They're in Stockton now. Okay? Those people are in Stockton now. But no one talks about that. No one talks about that. It's so crazy that a place would like raise in rent to the point where it's like $3,000 for a studio apartment, and then they go, why is no one cool here anymore? Why is it all just tech people and people who live outside? Maybe because that's the only people who can afford to live there. We ever think about that? We ever think it's hard to afford an apartment that's worth $4,000 and it's 20 square feet? Don't you think it's a little hard to afford that by busking? But no, everyone's like, oh, it's the homeless people. The homeless people have gone crazy. We need to militarize the police and stuff. And it's like, okay. But also maybe there's going to be more homeless people where apartments cost $45,000. Maybe that's going to push people onto the streets. And then once you're on the streets, it's much easier to fall into being a, drug addict and shit like that. And, I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's sad. I tried talking about that on stage. I think you can imagine that people weren't that receptive when I said no one cool lives here anymore. But it's true. They all moved to Oakland. All the cool people moved to Oakland, and now Oakland's getting too expensive. And it's like, God damn it. These rich dipshits just follow where cool people are until it's not cool anymore. It stinks. It stinks and I hate it. It's too bad. But, at least there's rock climbing gyms out here, At least we can rock climb. At least we can get everybody together and go, hey, you know what? Let's pay $200 a month to scale a wall. I do that, by the way. I'm no better. I'm no better than anyone. I really do believe that. I went rock climbing a little while ago. It's so funny. People don't understand this, who I talk to. I like doing yoga, and I like meditating, but it stresses me out to do both of those things. And people are always like, oh, no, it's a relaxing thing. It's maybe for you, it's relaxing. For me, it is a test of my willpower to see how stressed out I can get. Because I did this yoga class, and it was just me and the teacher, and that's always great, right? It's nice and relaxed. She was really nice. And then this other guy comes in, and right off the bat, I knew this guy was going to be trouble. You ever have that when you're a overly not perceptive, because that's too good of a word for me. I'm like I'm just kind of like hypersensitive to any form of annoyance or irritation. I'm so easily irritated, it's crazy. And when this guy came in, I was like, this guy's going to be irritating. I just felt, you ever feel it? Like he just put his water bottle down too loud. And I was like, oh, you're going to piss me off. Oh, you are going to piss. And he did one of those, which, by the way, hey, let's go back to shaming people for, I don't want to hear the snot in your nose when I'm next to you on a plane. I get it. A lot of people got, the vaccine. I get it that we feel oh, well, there's no more social distancing and no more masks, so it's all fair game now. No. Stop. I have been in public, and people have been coughing in ways that they weren't coughing pre-pandemic. People are coughing in this way like they were holding it in for 2 years, and now it's all coming out, and we gotta put a stop to that. Because I'm in this yoga class, this guy is right next to me, and just without any regard for me, just blowing the snot up his nose, and it's like, I think it's because we just don't talk to each other anymore. I think it is. I think it's because I thank God for the places in this country that still have confrontation. Thank God. Thank God for those places. Thank God there are places in this country, there are certain cities where if you act like an asshole, people say something. Because these people are just feral. It's these feral people who are just like, because no one's talking to them. They live their lives alone. That's what's happening now. Like, if you want to know why there's sort of like a lack of manners in society now, people don't talk to each other anymore. Right? I'm lucky that I have a few close friends, and they know how crazy I am. And when they see me do something crazy, they're like, "Hey, Dan, can you cut it out? You're being crazy." And I go, "Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. That makes sense. I will stop screaming at this poker game." Right? But if you don't have that, if you're not around people, then you're never told that what you're doing is affecting everybody around you negatively. And maybe it is also this sort of weird social thing where I don't know, like people's personal comfort is just so much more important than not bothering the people around you. It's just, I hate it. So I'm in this yoga class, and this dude, by the way, I'm so lucky to be in the yoga class. On the other side, I complain like this, but it's like, how lucky am I that I get to take an hour and just stretch to some weird-ass music, to some fucking John Mayer. Like, I get to just stretch for an hour. How few people have that luxury, but I still find a way to make it annoying to me. Because the class starts, and the woman is like, "Okay, everybody, make sure you breathe. You use your ujjayi breath, all right? I know the words, okay? My dad was a yoga teacher. So ujjayi breath, like, you make some noise when you breathe. Like, you make, like, a hollow sound in the back of your throat. This guy, the entire class, I'm not kidding, the entire class. The whole class was making those noises. And the teacher doesn't say anything because she's afraid that he's going to strike her, right? She's afraid that he will strike her. And I'm just next to him, and I don't have the calm and serenity to ignore it or to even accept it, right? So now the entire class, I have to be like, I want to kill this guy. I want to find a way to use yoga to kill this guy. I want to make this guy downward dog. You know what I'm saying? I want to put this guy's head in the sand because I was just so annoyed, and we didn't say a word to each other. And it's so funny. You know how people say you can make a really positive effect in someone else's life and you don't even know it? Like, maybe you said something to them when they were having a bad day and it just took them out of this funk that you didn't know they were in, but you were this big part of them coming out of a bad place. That can happen, but more likely you did the exact opposite. More likely you did something that you didn't even realize was annoying to someone, and they are bothered by you for like the rest of their life. Most likely you were like on a plane next to somebody and you weren't really aware that you were like snorting your mucus back into your nose so loudly. But then for the rest of that life, for the rest of their life, that person is telling the story. Yeah, I was on this United flight, and this guy was the most annoying, rude, upsetting person I've ever seen. And that's just part of them now. That's just part of them. That's just in their head now. How much you bothered them. That's kind of beautiful, isn't it? That we could have such an effect on someone else's life. Negative as it is, that we can just have this negative sort of effect on someone that they have to carry with them for the rest of their lives. I for sure have done that, by the way. 100%. 1,000,000%. I've annoyed somebody at their job, or I've done a bad job at my job. I actually remember this one time I was working at a meditation center. I've talked about this place a lot. It was a horrible part of my life, but it kind of did open my eyes to just how vacant even people who propose to want to improve other people's lives, how vacant their lives are. And maybe it is capitalism. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think it was probably a lot of the fact that it was in L.A., and it was a lot of L.A. people being very L.A. about, like, we need to find, this is our tribe. They would say that to each other. They had the audacity, white people at this meditation place I would go to, had the audacity to go, this is a tribe. We're all a tribe here. It's like, oh, really? Really? Bunch of honkies paying $200 a month to breathe with each other. That's a tribe. That's a tribe. Interesting. Wow. That's funny because, you know, if things go bad at work and your card gets declined there, let's see how much of a tribe you're in, huh? Every business wants you to feel like you're a part of something bigger. You're paying a membership here, but this is like a family. It's like, oh, really? Let's see how much of a family you are when your card declines. Huh? Oh, are you still family? Oh, yeah, that yoga place you go to, or that rock climbing gym, you guys are such a family till your card declines. Then you're more like a kid in foster care, and their parents decide they want to move to Florida. You know what I mean? It's such a tribe. Ugh. God, so gross. I got so sidetracked by talking about that. If let me know in the comments what I got sidetracked from talking about, because we're going to move on. I stayed on there for long enough. But let me just say, I learned almost nothing from the yoga class, except maybe that I need to relax a little bit when I'm getting bothered by other people. I let them bother me. Oh, right. I was talking about how much you can bother somebody. I was working. Right. Sorry. We're back. We're back. I was working at that yoga place, and they told me explicitly, my bosses told me explicitly, 5 minutes after class starts, you close the door. And the teachers there would usually get really mad at you if someone came in late because it just disrupts the class, whatever. So there's this seminar, and this woman comes in like 6 minutes after class starts, and I close the door. And she's like, all right, I'm here for the class. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I closed the door. There's like nothing I can do. And she was like, I drove all the way from wherever. She drove all the way from Cleveland. Not really, but that's what she made it sound like. She was like, I drove all the way from XYZ. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I closed the door. I mean, I just can't. They told me I can't open it. Whatever. And she gets really mad at me. She screams at me. She leaves like a bad Yelp review. And I told my boss, I was like, yeah, she came here like late. And my boss was immediately like, oh, why didn't you let her in? It's like, oh, yeah, because I'm making the least amount of money here. I'm just wrong. That's what you learn working at a place like that. Is if you make the least amount of money and something goes wrong, it's your fault. That's it. Why didn't you let them in? Oh, because you told me not to. Yeah, but like there's exceptions. Oh, maybe you should have told me that there were exceptions. Are there exceptions? Or is it just whenever anyone is mad, it's my fault? Huh. I wonder which one of those things it is. Right? Just sucks. I hate that shit. And you know what? I feel bad for managers and bosses and stuff. Not really, but like I kind of do, just because when I look at them, I go, you don't know how much of an asshole you are. You don't. You're such an asshole, and no one can tell you because they want to keep eating food. But God, it ruins you, like your soul sometimes. If you're a boss like that, I'm gonna get off my high horse. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, Dan's soapbox corner. I was driving, and I didn't know that Kobe Bryant and Nipsey Hussle murals made it all the way to Palo Alto. But there are like Nipsey Hussle and Kobe Bryant murals in Silicon Valley. And I saw one, and in LA there's so many of them, so you forget like how prevalent they are just because you get used to them. We need to have a conversation about making sure people who put up murals know how to paint. Okay? Because I get it. When someone you admired passed away, you really want to honor them. You got to make sure you can paint. I'm going to put this out into the universe. I really hope I never get famous enough where when I die, people put up murals of me. Because when you look at the Kobe Bryant murals that they are still up, it is so disrespectful to him. It is so incredibly disrespectful. You got Kobe Bryant murals that look like Slender Man. It looks like Slender Man passed away. It's like, really? Is this honoring Kobe Bryant? Right? Painting it. You look at it and it's like, that's Charles Barkley. I've looked at Kobe Bryant murals before and been like, oh no, what happened to Charles Barkley? Because they're so bad. And they're always outside of weed shops. And it's like, yeah, guys, hey, I don't think Kobe would want this. I gotta say, I don't remember Kobe saying, you got to work 10 times harder than you even think you have to make it. I don't ever remember him saying, please put my face contorted on the side of a weed shop when I die. It's insane, man. It's insane. You have Nipsey Hussle murals that make him look like Rick Ross. It's bad. It's bad. You got to just make sure you know how to do something before you do it. It's like if I tried to write a eulogy in Spanish. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to be honoring that person. I don't speak Spanish, by the way. That's what I'm saying. If I tried to write a eulogy in Spanish, you would read it and be like, Clara Good was woman, mother, good job. Huh? Like that's not good for the memory of that person, right? So we got to just I don't know. We got to stop telling people they're so talented. Or this is actually the thing. If you're in any creative field, and this is coming from me, right? And I am a professional stand-up comedian until they get the ticket totals from this tour. And then I'm back to being an unprofessional comedian. Listen, I was able to trick an agency into thinking that I could move tickets. And that is all coming crashing down on me now because no one is coming out to these shows. And not that no one is coming out. By the way, the people who have come out to the shows have been so nice. And I just want to say this on top of the fact that you are really helping me by coming out to these shows, by helping me move even the smallest amount of tickets. You give me so much hope by coming up to a show and being like, hey, I follow you on Instagram and I came out to this show. Just to remind me that can work. I have like 350,000 followers or something crazy on Instagram. I can't fill like 100 seats in Plano, Texas over 3 days. It's bananas. It's really bananas how tough it is to get people to be like, I also do stand up. Please come out to a show. In Sunnyvale, like the tickets were good, and a few people came up to me and they were like, "Oh, I saw you on Instagram." But most of the people were just randoms. Most of the people either got free tickets or they were just like, "Oh, we're not doing anything tonight. Let's go to the show." And boy, do I appreciate them too. But it's like you can't to keep booking these shows. You have to just start selling tickets. So I got to find a way to sell more tickets. I don't know what that way is. I don't know how to do it. I've been trying. I've been putting out more stand-up. Some people like that. Some people will comment stuff under my stand-up like, where's the sink? Where's the dishes? And just know you can comment whatever you want under my profile. I would never say you shouldn't be mean online. I would never, because that's just what online is. I don't think you should, but that comes with the territory in my mind, is that people are just going to be. I'm trying to be a famous comedian. People should be mean to me online. Do you understand that you need to pay some price for something? Don't you understand that? Don't you understand you have to pay a small, at least small price for some things? It's so fascinating to me when comedians are like, somebody commented like, you're doing way too much self-promotion and blah, blah, blah. And I made a post about it, but it's like, yeah, she gets to feel that way. She doesn't owe me anything. You don't owe me to come out to a show. I just hope you do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you just like the sync videos, that's great. Just know I made the sync videos in hopes of eventually getting you out to a show. But what was I saying? Oh, yes, I was talking about the upcoming shows. Please buy a ticket. I'm about to head to Sacramento, and when I come back from Sacramento, so this is my life on the road. I'm doing the show in Sacramento. I don't know how many tickets I sold. I know it's not very many. I could have gotten a hotel, but instead, to save money, I am driving back from Sacramento the night of the show. That's about 5.5 hours. And I'm going to admit something very embarrassing to you folks. There's a lot of comedians who want to be rappers. There's a lot of comedians who want to be a lot of things other than stand-up comedians, which I think is a little strange. I want to be a stand-up comedian. If I get to act also, that would be cool. There's definitely a lot of things I wouldn't mind doing on top of being a stand-up comedian, but stand-up comedian is always, that's the top. That's the pinnacle for me, personally. I don't want to be a rapper. But when I drive back, when I'm driving really late at night, which you have to do for stand-up sometimes, the way I stay awake is I will put on a beat. Oh, God, this is so hard. This is so difficult. I'll put on a beat and I'll freestyle. I said it. There, I said it. That's how I stay awake, folks, is I will put on a beat and I will freestyle over that beat. And it is so embarrassing, but it works. Because I think your brain is working, and also you're cringing so hard at yourself that you can't go to sleep. Like, your mind won't let you go to sleep when you're being that cringe. Your mind won't let you, like, rest your head on a pillow when you're going, my name is Dan, and I'm here to say, like, it just won't let you. So just know, in order to perform in beautiful Sacramento, I will be freestyling at 2 a.m. in my car as I try to stay awake on the drive. So I do a lot for you people. Okay? I do a lot for you people. There's been something I've been tackling on stage that I wanted to kind of just talk about a little bit because, as you guys know, I have a pretty interesting perspective when it comes to like gender norms or whatever because my mom was a bricklayer and my dad was a yoga teacher. And I think because of that, I sort of at least somewhat understood when people were like, oh, yeah, like gender norms can be pretty hurtful to people and we shouldn't put people in boxes. And I do this little thing on stage where I talk about like, gender norms and how like they affect people. But some people think that getting rid of or like some people think challenging gender norms means that you have to do what the opposite or what the other, like, how am I saying this? Some people think that if you get rid of gender norms, it means that you have to do the things that are normal for the other gender. That's not what that means. I don't know how people got that idea. Like, I obviously when I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, guys can be yoga teachers, women can be bricklayers. It doesn't mean they have to. You know what I mean? People get so like weird about that stuff. It's like I do so many things that are standard for my gender, but that doesn't mean that I like think everyone has to. That's all it means. Like I go to an MMA gym. I love poker. I love Buffalo Wild Wings. I just don't think you need to do that stuff if you're a guy. But there's some people who think when you start talking about challenging gender norms, they're like, oh, what? So you think guys have to wear dresses? And you're like, no. I just think they should be able to if they want to. And then those guys are like, oh, why would they want to? Because it'll make them feel like a whole person for the first time in their entire lives. And it's like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, you just think guys should wear dresses because in deep down in their minds, they knew that was what would make them happy. And it's like, are you talking about yourself? It's like, no, you liberal. But no, people get this like weird mixed up thing. But at the core of that stuff is always been freedom to me. Like, I think you should just have the freedom to do whatever weird, stupid shit you want to do, whether or not it conforms to your gender norm. That's how I feel. Whatever weird, stupid thing you want to do, whether it's take a ballet class or, I don't know, get some mud on your truck, right? Because that's the height of masculinity, isn't getting some mud on your truck. Get your truck on the mud, get some mud on the truck. Masculinity, right? But it's just it's so weird to me when people are resistant to that idea. Because here's my thing. If gender is this thing that's completely inherent to people at birth and like boys will always naturally gravitate towards these things and women will always naturally gravitate towards those things, then why are we so strict and stringent on enforcing those things? Right? Because shouldn't that be inherent then? Right? Shouldn't we not have to enforce those things? I just don't get it, right? Like, for me, they definitely didn't have to be enforced. But then again, there were a lot of things in my childhood where I was told not to. I think I've told this story before, but one time I was talking to my dad, and I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I had just started using the blender, and I was like, I like putting on music and like blending fruit while I dance. Just a little effeminate 8-year-old. Just like every 8-year-old is, right? I had this little high-pitched voice, and I told my dad, yeah, I'd like to blend. I like to use the blender and put some music on and dance in the kitchen. And my dad was like, easy, man. Isn't that so crazy? And by the way, my dad was a very progressive guy, right? He was very, I mean, he was, I think, the reason I wasn't homophobic. Because he would always be, he was very, like, especially for where he came from, very, very progressive. But I think there's just this thing in dads' minds, and maybe it's not like directly homophobia, but I think with my dad, it was like, God damn, Dan, you're already so weird and annoying. Like, we can't add another obstacle to your life. Just please. He was like, just please. Your life is already going to be so hard. Please don't add another thing to how hard it's going to be. But it's so weird because, like, it's not like dancing in the kitchen was going to make me gay. Guys have just such a weird idea about what gay actually. It wasn't like I would be dancing in the kitchen making a smoothie and then go, I would like to suck a dick, actually. That's not how it works. My girlfriend's like huge feminist, super, super feminist, like as feminist as you can be, like very liberated, very pro women. She loves to cook. She has all of the tendencies of a woman who would want to be like a housewife. And those two things aren't like mutually exclusive. You can be both of those things. You just have to think that, women shouldn't have to be housewives. That's it. And by the way, a lot of the guys who say women should be housewives, if you say that, you better be making $300K a year minimum. And I'm not kidding. It should only be like 3% of the U.S. population saying that women should be housewives, because that's the percentage of men that can afford that. Right? Because you got to think about it. If you want women to be housewives, then what do you have to do? Make enough money for both of you. And not just make enough money for both of you, because we're talking about housewives, right? So not only are you saying women's place is to be cooking and raising children, and there's children involved, right? If we're talking about a traditional relationship, there's also children involved, right? So you need house money, children money, enough money for that wife, and enough money for that wife to be comfortable, right? Because if you're not making her comfortable, then you're not doing your side of the bargain, right? I mean, I'm just being honest here. If there's a woman who goes, I don't want a job, I just want to like cook, clean, have kids, take care of the kids, that's fine. I have no I believe in freedom. I believe in doing whatever you want to do. And there are some things that come with that gender norm, right? Like if you find a man that can hold up the other end of that bargain, then you are going to be expected to do some things, right? You're expected to raise those kids well. You're expected to keep up the house well. All those things. But on the other, we hear a lot about that too, by the way, especially from like far-right podcasters, right? Oh, women these days, they can't cook, they can't clean, they can't... No. What about men that can't provide enough for those women to do those things? Because I can't. That's why I need a real liberated woman. And by the way, a lot of these guys do, even if they pretend like they don't, right? Because your side of that bargain is providing enough not only for that house to be ran and for those kids to be kept alive, but to keep them comfortable. Because if they're not comfortable, then you're a fuck up. And you need to do better. So there's this thing where all of these people pretend to want something that isn't really attainable anymore because of the goddamn state of the economy. So, I don't know. That was just something that was on my mind. What else did I want to cover today? Oh, I was thinking about this recently as I was sitting and I was watching people, as I do when I'm on the road, because I don't have anything else to do. I literally just sit down and I look at people and I think about what's going on with them. And that's really fun. Like, basically making up the conversation that they're having in my own head and being like, damn, I wonder what they're talking about. I wonder what they're saying. And with this couple, they were having this argument. I was at a juice shop, and this couple was having this argument, and the woman was telling this guy, I only heard little bits and pieces of this. This woman was telling this guy that something he did made her jealous, right? I forget exactly what it was. I think it was like texting this other woman. Like, why are you texting her? And he was like, she's just my friend. And his girlfriend was like, well, why are you texting her so much, right? And there was definitely like a misunderstanding between them where the guy didn't really understand why she was jealous, and she was being not that it's feel the things that you feel. But I came to this realization. I want to know if it's true. Let me know what you think. This podcast is kind of just me crowdsourcing ideas. I think it's important to be with someone who is as jealous as you. It's not that you both can't be jealous. You can be jealous in a relationship. You just have to make sure that jealousy, well, you have to make sure the jealousy isn't like way too much where it's, causing problems, like huge problems. But you also just need to make sure you and your partner are the same level of jealous of other people. Right? Because then you'll understand when your partner gets jealous, right? Because this guy didn't really understand. And I wonder if this could be the case. I wonder if his girlfriend was texting a guy. He very well might be like, oh, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. But that's because he's not as jealous as her. So you just have to make sure you're both as jealous. You can both be crazy people, but just make sure it's at the same level. Right? You want to be with someone where you go, hey, I didn't like the way you looked at that woman. And you're like, oh, totally, I understand. Because if you looked at a guy like that, I would go crazy. Like, you just need to make sure you're on the same page jealousy-wise. Because it's really hard when a not jealous person is in a relationship with a jealous person. Because that not jealous person is walking around like, oh, la-di-da-di-da. And that jealous person is just, their brain is just a calculator, right? Oh, boy, do I understand the jealous brain, right? You're just constantly like, what does this mean? What did that mean? You're like a detective who is only uncovering evidence that hurts you, right? Like, oh, what did it mean when she texted him? You don't want that. You want to make sure you're both on the same page, jealousy-wise, right? I don't know. I was just thinking about that because, like, I've dated people who aren't jealous at all, and it doesn't go well because they don't have the same thing in their brain that I have. And I'm like, they would it wouldn't even be anything crazy. It's like, oh, I had a couple of drinks with a coworker after work and we hung out, and I'd be like, I don't really like that, and they'd be like, why? And I'm like, well, how would you feel if I did that with a woman? They'd be like, oh, I don't care. And I'd be like, this is tough. This is tough because then it makes you feel like a psycho. Do you know what I mean? It makes you feel like a crazy person. It makes you feel like, oh, well, I'm the jealous, insane person, which you are. Okay, I don't want to make it sound like you're not because you are. But I think just finding someone you're on the same page with. Finding someone who also goes, if your coworker that I think has a crush on you touches your arm like that, I'm showing up. Okay? You just need somebody who's on the same page of jealousy as you are. Get into arguments about that sometimes. People say you can't win an argument, right? That's a popular thing. once you start having an argument, you're both losers. That's not true at all. You can win an argument. There's just a misunderstanding of what winning an argument looks like. Right? Like, people think winning an argument is the other person being like, wow, you are right. I am wrong. I didn't see it that way. Thank you for yelling that at me. That's not going to happen. That just doesn't happen. But you can still win an argument. Winning an argument is just that person storms off and never talks to you again. You won. That's your prize. You might not like the prize, but that is what you win when you win an argument. The other person is never going to go, oh, wow, I see it your way. I didn't. That's a discussion. That's what you win in a discussion. Do I think a discussion is better than an argument? Absolutely. But there is still winning an argument. If it's been 5 months and that person hasn't reached out to you, you won that argument. You won that argument. You lost the friendship. I mean, hey, you're gonna lose the friendship. All right? That's not up for debate. The friendship is gone, but you won the argument. And I hang out with comedians a lot, so I have friends get into these insane arguments that are so goddamn funny because it is just a bunch of children. And I think that comedy is so popular now because I think everybody's growth now is very stunted by society and by the fact that we can't do the things that make you an adult, at least symbolically, right? Start a family, buy a house, all that stuff is like pretty much completely out of reach for the vast majority of people my age. So it leaves us in this state of childhood, kind of, right? So what I'm saying is Disney adults are going to be an epidemic. If you think it's bad now, oh boy, just wait. Just wait. You want to know why? Because you made a bottleneck for adulthood. House, family, job to support them, that's all gone. You know what's left? Legos. You have this whole generation of people who are now 25, 30 years old going, man, this whole job thing didn't really work out because AI took mine. You go, the whole house thing didn't really work out. I went to BlackRock because they're who owns every single house, a private equity firm, BlackRock. And they said that the price went up because they decided that. And that's what they get to do because they're a private equity firm. But you know what's still there is Star Wars, a movie that is for children. It's a child's movie for children. The storyline is for children. The subject matter is for children. It's a child's movie. But I don't judge the adults that like it because what else do you have? Right? Now, if you're a rich guy who owns a home and likes Star Wars, it's like, hey, man, listen, I can't tell you anything because you're more successful than me. But rough. Anyway. I don't know how I got into that one either. I am so sorry. I'm so spaced out right now. I was talking about suspended childhood. Oh, man. Come on, Dan. You're listening to this so frustrated. I'm so sorry. Oh, winning arguments. Oh, right. Comedians being childish. I need somebody in the room. I need somebody in the room during this podcast when I go on a train of thought. I might start doing that. I don't know who would be willing to do that for these, but I will hopefully someday have somebody just sit in the room with me and, you know, when I go off on a tangent or something, they'll just kind of be there to catch me. But people like comedians because comedians are all children. I think we all feel like children now because we can't afford things. Right. But the arguments that I have been a part of that have, like, ripped things apart for like a long time with people is so funny. It's so goddamn funny. If you heard the arguments that like tore my friend groups apart, you would be like, how did that? But it does. I'm trying to remember one right now. My friends got into an argument because one of them, who I think was just being a little bit cheeky, said that the Grateful Dead is a white supremacist band. Which you can disagree with, but it's such a funny take. It's so funny to see like those hippies doing whippets and to be like they're white supremacists. But like they got in a blowout argument, like my two buddies, over that, and like it ended in them being like, You're a child. But God, arguing, man. I got to stop doing it. Well, anyway, that's the episode of Dancers. Thank you so much for joining. Please join the Patreon. Please subscribe on YouTube, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And as always, have a good one.